Hello. I'm just looking over some of these bead embroidery designs as we get ready to roll out some fun information today. I hope you're doing well. Hello, hello, hello. So great to be here. It's Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern where I am, and I'm happy to say the sun is out. We've had some crazy weather. I don't know, I think it's been crazy all over the country, right? Everybody's either cold or colder than normal. You've got weather, precipitation. We've had a little bit of everything, except it's just been really cold. I'm not going to complain. I live in the Northeast and I've lived here my whole life. I should be used to it by now. So I hope wherever you are, you're happy, you're comfortable, you're ready to get into some beading. I am super happy to be here with you today. For those of you that are joining us on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Please just know if you comment, I cannot see your name, and I would have I would love to be able to interact with you more directly. So if you're able, just come on over to artbeads.com/live and join us over there. And if not, stay where you are. It's totally fine. Happy to have you either way. Thank you so much for all the love. I really appreciate those hearts. You guys have already found all the things on the screen. We've got the hearts. You've got a shopping icon, which will make it super easy for you to shop as we go through the tutorial today. All of the information will get pulled up on the products. It makes it so nice to be able to just learn something maybe new, realize something that you absolutely have to have, and get it right into your shopping cart, and then close that out. The nice thing about what we'll be featuring today is there are limited quantities on a lot of these, only for the sake that they are, they're a production run thing. They're available for a limited time. I noticed when I pulled out my stash of buttons to kind of be inspired on what direction we would go today, I have some that I don't even know that I can find anymore. So definitely don't hesitate. I know in the shopping bag, I feature the one that I'm using in the tutorial to just kind of keep us focused on the products, but you can certainly search the main categories and find a treasure's worth of different buttons. So as I mentioned, we're going to be featuring buttons today, Czech buttons. It was a popular request, and we're going to be using them in some bead embroidery. Let me just make sure we've got everything covered. I'm here, artbeads.com/live, where you can find me on Mondays at 1 o'clock. And on the same page, you'll be able to see my sister beading people, my jewelry making friends, Becky, Julie, and Sarah. We are here to bring you information, so be sure to check out all that's coming up. Save them to your calendar so you don't forget when we're going to be live. We love having you here so we can talk and interact with each other. You can ask questions. You can give us some feedback. You can come and tell us what you're making. We would love to know what you're making. So please just visit that page and find us and save the ones that you're interested in seeing and see the ones that maybe you've already missed. Okay, so without further ado, we've got a lot to cover, and I would love to just kind of give you a little bit of sneak peek into some of what we're doing today. As I mentioned, this was a request somebody asked for. I'm just going to flip the camera down, loosen that up. Here we go. All right. Well, now you get to see my bead wall over there. All right. I'll just adjust this a little bit so I can get you guys a little closer. Oh, you could see a little bit further out today than normal. I must have this set a little higher. You don't need to be seeing all this stuff in the background. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we have some bead embroidery. This is our feature today. It is a Czech button, and then seed beads, and some ultra suede. And we'll get a little bit more specific on the products, but just so you have an idea of where we're headed. This is also a Czech button. As I mentioned, there are many in the store. Just search Czech button, CZECH, and you will see all different options. This, I think, is one of my all-time favorites. And they are made in a factory. They are made by artisans. They are glass. They have beautiful finishes to them, gorgeous colors, different themes. This one I haven't found anywhere recently, so I must have had that one for a long time. beautiful sunflowers. And then these are also available in small and larger sizes. In fact, let me tell you what size this is. This one is, let's see, we are looking at about 20 millimeters, a little bit less, a little bit more, very close to 3/4 inch. So as you're looking in your in the options that come up under check buttons, you can get a sense of size. So that's about 20 millimeters, and this big guy was probably about 30-ish millimeters. So that'll give you a sense of what you're looking at if you don't have a gauge handy. Okay, so products. So that's where we're headed. That's the long game today. So we've got a plan of where we're going. And now let's take a look at what we're going to be working with. Some of my normal cast of characters when I'm with seed beading. We've got a beading awl. I am never without my awl. If you guys don't have one of these, you can see how fine that point is. It is amazing. It helps get you out of a lot of tight jams. If you get any knots or anything, it is wonderful. A pair of scissors. You want a really nice, I show you the scissors because you really want a pair that has a really good tip. You really want to have that fine tip so you can get into those tight corners. I have so many different pairs of scissors around, but for this, I really like to have my good quality ones. This is our button. As I mentioned, really sweet little bird. I love this color. It's called gaspiite. So like the gemstone or mineral gaspiite, it is definitely similar in color. For anybody who's still on Facebook, if you aren't able to join us over on artbeats.com, a new feature that we have in place is if you see the code for up in the upper, I think it's upper right-hand side black box, you can type that word into the chat and then you'll get a link and that'll let you be able to shop similar to if you were on artbeats.com/live. So if you're on Facebook, give that a try and you can type in any of the codes that pop up today. Okay, I'm really perseverating on that button because I just love it. He's so sweet, or she. Thread, my normal favorite thread. I say that as if you guys are with me every week. I would love to know if you're with me every week. I am. Oh, there's comments. Yay, there we are. Hi, Kara. Hi, Kat. Deb. Hi, Anita. Shelly. Yes, love their buttons. Love their buttons. Oh, wonderful, Dawn. Definitely. Really, you can use any buttons with this technique. And then today we're going to use, again, my favorite, the tulip needles. They are my favorite. They are fairly indestructible. I'm very hard on my needles. You may notice I have very large hands. I have been a maker for a very long time. I don't usually care if something's going to bend. I am pretty hard on my tools. These needles, they do the good work. And I'm just going to pick this up so you guys can get a little peek at my palette. So as I mentioned, we're using this button. And what I love about bead embroidery is it's like painting with, it's like coloring. It's like coloring or drawing with colored pencils. To me, this is like the quality colored pencils or the fresh box of crayons that no one else has touched. And then you could just, many of you, if you're familiar, you can almost smell the crayon box as you think about it. And with bead embroidery, the sky's the limit. There are no limits on what you can do with color. I take my inspiration, obviously, from the button, and I did pull in something that is very similar in color, which is listed in the SKUs. I love this color seed bead, but I will say I likely don't. I don't know. I like to go a little bit out of bounds. I like to push the boundaries. Now you don't want to get something that's so, well, no, I say go for it. Go for whatever colors you want to use. So you can see this is the color palette we'll be using today, but really the sky's the limit. You can use whatever colors you like, draw the inspiration from the button, from your main focal piece, and just have fun with it. There really are no rules. And if you find that you get into a part of the stitch where you're like, I don't know, just keep going. Don't take it out. Just keep going. Pick up something else that's going to light your fire and just keep going. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into some of this. So how do we use a button in bead embroidery? Let me see if I can somehow move this down a little without totally undoing the camera. I want you guys to see a little better. And we're live, so, you know, whatever happens, happens, and there's nothing I can do about it, but just keep going. So bear with me. I just want to make this a little bit more enjoyable for you and easier to see. And I will adjust this little guy, tilt you a little bit more, excuse my fingers. All right. Now, you're going to say, wait, there's more here than we talked about yet. And you're right. So we're going to add in a couple new things as we go. So we have our button. And while we want to know what can we do with this button that's a little bit different than just using it as a button. And so to do it in bead embroidery, we're going to be adding it to a piece of foundation. And this is like it's called beading foundation. I will say it's like Kleenex. There are brands out there that have become sort of the pseudonym for what is this beading foundation. It really is just beading foundation. It's if you haven't used it before, it's very stiff, but it's very lightweight. It's similar to almost like a piece of felt, but it's very stiff. And it was traditionally sold in white. It is still available in white. You can also get it in black. And this just becomes how you can give your piece some structure and then give your piece something to be built upon. This is just a quick little swatch that I did with some colors. You can color this to any color you want. You can use dyes. This is alcohol ink, markers, just a few different things that I just tested it out with. And I said, you know what, this will be a good, just a good quick thing to show that you can do anything you want with this stuff. You can dye it. If you have dye in the house, you can color it with permanent markers. Really, it's your palette. And what is nice about it is once it's on and you've covered it with beads, you almost don't see it. But if you are a perfectionist, I'm typically going a little too quickly. If you're a perfectionist, you can see the white. And I would, like if I was going to sell this piece or exhibit it or put it into a competition, I would color the white. Because I'm going to take this and maybe make it into a pair of earrings, make 2 of these and have a pair of earrings, no one's ever going to know but me. So really just make the choice, but just know that you can color the foundation anything you want. So if you start with white, you can make it whatever color you'd like. Okay, so now how do we get the button to the foundation? You're going to cut off the shank. And I know that sounds cruel, but we're going to cut off the shank. So I'm going to use a good pair of cutters, and I'm going to be very careful because this is glass and you don't want to break your button and you don't want to hurt yourself. So just very carefully come in, cover that loop obviously when you're cutting so it doesn't go anywhere, especially when you get to the other side. Cut that off, and there. Your button is now free and it's no longer a button. You've now made it into just a beautiful focal. And I would come back in here and just trim that down a little bit to make it nice and smooth. Although once you get to the next step, there's no need to really worry about that. So now your focal is free to be used however you want. You could set this in metal. Like if you're a metalsmith and you want to put this in bezel material and bezel this up and make it into a ring, go for it. It is free to be used however you like. Okay, but for today's purposes, we are going to use some glue. So I typically, as somebody who kind of came into jewelry making as a metalsmith, glue is one of those things that you just don't use very often. It's not something, but when you do, you use good glue. And I moved my tool. Let me just grab this. So I use a 2-part epoxy nearly all the time. And so I therefore have my epoxies in a gun. So because I use a larger container of it. But for your needs, we are using the 2-part epoxy in a smaller size. And you just need to, well, first of all, I always recommend reading the instructions. Especially when you're working with something that's new to you, read the manufacturer's instructions. They are required, and they spend a lot of money on making sure that their instructions are well written and that you follow all the safety requirements of whatever it is that they feel is in their product that you need to protect yourself from. And the older I get, the more I realize, like, oh, they actually really mean it. So I'm here to say, please, please, please read the package, read the instructions, and then go for it. If you need to wear a mask, personal protection, wear a mask. All of this is really important. I do a lot of work with resin, a lot of work with adhesives, alcohol inks. I'm usually with a respirator on. And when I don't, I really pay for it. And when I'm teaching, of course, it's a little harder to wear that because then you can't really hear me through the respirator. So I don't have anything on today, but I do advise you to please just take care of you. And okay, so all I'm doing is I just put on a little bit of the 2-part epoxy based on the measurements that are required to prepare the adhesive to actually work correctly. When you're working with a 2-part epoxy, it's a chemical reaction that's happening between the 2 parts. You know, they're kept separately so that they can live on for a period of time without having the reaction happen. And so therefore you can use it as you need it. But then once you combine the 2 of them, you have a chemical reaction happening. And each glue is rated to stay active for a period of time that is different. Usually the faster the cure, possibly the more toxic the material. So be careful when you read things that say, you know, quick cure or whatever it might be. Again, just read the instructions. And I know this is quite a deviation from a beading tutorial, but I feel it's very important to cover this material with you, and it is the next step. So I want to make sure I share it with you as best as I can. Okay, so again, you are taking the amount that is recommended. If you have one part that's not measured correctly, the reaction won't happen correctly, therefore your glue will fail. So also that is also important. And as you can see, I am mixing it and mixing it and mixing it, and I'm making sure I get the outsides of the perimeter of what I'm mixing so that nothing on here is not mixed correctly. Material interfacing. Yes, that is, I believe, the same thing. Okay, cool. All right, and so from here, we will take the glue and I will add it to the back of what was the button and fill that gap, fill that opening. You know, you can tell these are pressed, they're in a mold. They have a beautiful shape to them, and I'm sorry that I'm hiding all that beautiful. So I'm going to fill that up. I'm going to use all of the glue that I put together. And you want it to be mostly level with the surface with just a tiny little bit so that when you apply it to the backing, when you apply it to the backing, you have a little bit that will go into the material. And here, because this piece of backing is somewhat large, it almost doesn't matter where I put it, how I put it. Let's see, there we go. But for here, it would be nice if I get it right. Side up, facing up. And I'm just going to press lightly. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want to have the glue come out. And while that would logically make you feel like it's now going to be sure it's going to stick, what's going to happen is you have to pass a needle through any of the glue that is expelled out from under the button. So you don't want to have to work any harder or make your needle have to go through something that's really challenging. And I will tell you, to go through this 2-part epoxy would be very challenging. So I'm just going to press down lightly and then let it sit for as long as the recommended directions say. And I typically will let this sit for at least 12 hours because what I'm going to do with this button next is pretty aggressive and it's going to have to hold up to a lot. And as I mentioned at the top, I'm not really very forgiving when it comes to what I need to do to these things. I just kind of just go. And if it fails, I get frustrated and I'd really rather spend my time beading and not be frustrated. So I try to give myself the best chance at success. Okay, so the button that's shown there, I can't tell for sure. If you have a button, and then let me pull, if you have a button that doesn't have a metal shank and it's glass, I will say, I'm going to say this, but I offer it with the utmost of caution. You can break this off. And I have never broken one off where I broke the button, but you will see they're a little bit more connected as a unit if it does have a glass back to it. And when you cut it off, I try to use something a little bit more, more, not my good cutters. And not because the glass will hurt them, but because it does require a little bit more, because you'll see like the shank is a little bit thicker. So you can use these. It's just a little more challenging than what I actually showed you. But I will say some of the buttons with the glass back are stunning. So don't overlook them. All right, I'm going to bring the light down a little bit more too, so we have a little bit better lighting. I think that's good. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, adjusting. Okay, so here we are. This guy's been sitting, and I know it'll be fine. And you may see I snuck in a little pair of pliers. 1, I put lotion on because it's winter and my hands are very dry. 2, I'm on camera pretty close up and nobody wants to see that. Dry skin. So sometimes it then makes it a little challenging to pull a needle if I've got lotion on my fingers. All right, and for this purpose, I'm just going to take off a little bit of thread. I'm not going crazy, just showing you how to do this. So I'm just unspooling some of the thread. I will needle up my thread. And as I mentioned before, but I'll show it again, always happy to share this, especially because it's fun when I don't get it. I pull the thread all the way down, and this is nice because it's nice and dark, until it looks like a speck of pepper. I take the needle so that the eye is horizontal. I go over that speck of pepper and I do a little shimmy shimmy, and then the thread just kind of magically goes into the needle. And just so you know, I didn't trick you. I will do it again. Maybe I'll get a little closer to the camera so you can see that. Pull it down. And I remembered from the other day when I couldn't remember the person who shared this with me. Her name is Bethany Barry, and I've lost touch with her. But I took a class with her probably in 2001 or something, and she shared that, and I have been doing it ever since. So if it's a new way to thread a needle for you, don't be frustrated, just keep going. But try to do it because it's so much easier than what I see other people trying to do when they thread their needle. All right, and so one thing that you have to do that I recommend, I don't often use knots in my beadwork, but here I don't mind just offering the option here if you'd like. Just put a little knot on the end just to kind of give yourself a little bit of help, like a little helping hand on the back. Let's see if I can get it. I got 2 right on top of each other. Okay, so now I'll come in from underneath, and I want to get as close to the button as possible, which is where If you have glue there, it makes it very difficult. And what I'm going for is an outline around the button. And this is called the back stitch. So it's something that you would use in sewing or other types of needle and thread art. But this is how we do it with beads. So I've got 2 beads. I'm going to pull them so they rest very close to that, the exit point here. I'm going to pull them so they're very tightly pressed up against that point there. And then I'm going to go straight down from the end of that last, oops, I like to have the thread under my thumb. And then put the needle right next to, I hope you can see that okay. Oh, like a French knot. That sounds like a Barry's way to knot. Wrap thread around needle, then slide it down. That is a great option. And this is something that happens all the time. That's the one thing that definitely frustrates me by the end of the day. And then just pull that down. And what I'm going to do now is just peek under here, and I'm going to go back up right where I started. And so I get both of those beads. Oops, not between. I don't want to be between. I want to come up right where I started. Oh, let me try it this way again. There we go. And then I'm going to go back through the 2 beads. Like so. And then all I'm going to do is keep going. So I'll show you just a couple more, and then we'll move on. So again, I'm going to pick up 2, slide them down. I hold this thread with my thumb. I put the needle right next to the button, right in front of that last bead that I strung. And this time what I want to do is come up, and what I want to do is secure 3 of the beads this time. There we go. So I'll go through 3 of the beads. So I've kind of taken those 2 new beads and secured them with the original founding members. And then I'll keep going. What I would say to you, because often when I teach this class, is people are like, oh, can I just do 6 beads at a time? No, you can't. It just doesn't work very well to give you that nice, neat row. So the most that I do is 3. If you want to try to do more, I always encourage people to try. If you have an idea and you think you can do it and you can accomplish what you're looking for, go for it. My recommendation is no more than 3. Pull that down. And then I will come up. Again, I'm just going to go back 1 extra bead. So that time I added 3. I'm going to come up right there. And this is where these pliers come in handy, these little guys. They really just give me that nice little grip. They're not too big. They don't get in the way. They're sweet. And then just go back through. And now when you're going back through, make sure you're actually going through and you're not catching the foundation, or try not to. It's not the end of the world if you do. Again, this is a little bit more forgiving than traditional beadwork, where it's easy to kind of hide some of the nuances that may come up. What is important, and it becomes important later, which I'll show you, is just keeping your stitches nice and neat on the back. You will never see these, but it does become important later. But also, as you keep these neat, this is also very neat. That is really important to me. And then just go all the way around. Okay, so here's, through the magic of TV, here's what it looks like next. So I've got my original row, and then what I did is off of the row, I did a little peyote. I did a little, it's not tubular peyote, but it's like 2 rows, circular. I went around just 2 times in the same size. So the base, which I didn't mention, these seed beads, this is size 11. The blue is a size 11. And then I topped it off with 2 rounds of size 15. And the 15 just helps close up the 11 to make it a little bit more secure. You are by no means requiring these beads to hold the button. Your glue, if you did your glue correctly, the glue is doing your work. The bezel just becomes something very decorative and an accent. It's you could even skip it if you want to, because it isn't functional. And are you guys good with the peyote around? It's you're just going to come, eventually you're going to work your full row, and then you'll step up. You'll come up through any of the beads and start peyote. So you'll just pick up one, go down through the next, go down through the next, and then just go all the way around. And then now your new row becomes the bead that you'll pass through. And you have just 2 rounds, and then 2 rounds of 15. And you have this beautiful bezel. And this is where the color comes in and is really fun. And you can see how the pink almost becomes non-existent. So the pink, while it was fun, is now no longer fun because you don't see it. So that's also something to think about. If you really wanted the pink to show, then use pink the whole time. I think for me, for demonstration purposes, and because I just love color, I get very bored very easily, and I like to have a little variety. I tend to just go a little bit over the top with color. Okay, so something else that I think I like to share, and it's not necessary, is once I finish this second round of 15s, I pull the beadwork so that it tightens things up and it makes things nice and neat. It actually does cinch in the size 11s, but you do have the option, if your thread is long enough. I would not recommend doing this if your thread is short and you're about ready to run out and you just want to weave it in and be done, which is fine. But if your thread is long enough, which it is for the sake of, what I'm doing next, you can go back through and really tighten up everything and make it even neater if it was at all bothering you that some of these are popping out. It's just the nature of putting round things against round things. You're going to have a little bit of buckling. Sorry, that was a lot of B's. But you can reinforce it if you want to. Just stitch through. Your goal for this entire project is just to try to make it so you don't see your threads. So as long as you're weaving your threads so they're not exposed and you see them on the sides of your beadwork, you're good. Do whatever you want to. There's so few rules. I encourage you to just play and have a good time. All right, so now we've completed the bezel, and you could stop here. If you're feeling triumphant and you've accomplished what you want to, you can stop right here and skip to what's coming in the future. But what I wanted to share with you is just two other things to help make this a little bit more interesting, what I think is interesting. I'm going to pass the needle toward the back, and I'm going to show you the stop stitch. And again, these are like sewing. These are things I learned in sewing. and not that I incorporated them into beadwork. I'm not suggesting this is my idea, but they are other techniques that have come from other disciplines. So if you have experience in other disciplines where you're like, I want to try that here, go for it. It is ripe for the trying. So I'm today, right now, very randomly, just showing you, I'm bringing the thread up from behind. I'm going to pick up one of these teeny tiny little 3mm Czech beads. I think to me they look like gemstones. They're faceted. They're amazingly tiny. Trying to get them in focus to help you see them. These little 3mm turquoise colored Czech glass rondelles. Super sweet. Let's see if they'll show better when I pull it closer to the foundation. So you can see. Now, if you were to just go back down through that bead to lock it in place, it's just going to come right off, right? Your thread's going to just go right back the way it came. So what you do is you add a stop bead, S-T-O-P, stop. And what it does is it just holds that bead in place. It's like fringe. When we did fringe the other day, it's like the fringe. You just need something that allows you to be able to reverse the needle and hold this in place. And you just go back down through the foundation. So again, if you're on Facebook, just use that code, put it in the chat, you'll get a link. And then for those of you who are with me, feel free to just keep adding to your cart or look at the information on these beads. I'm giving you the highlights. There may be more information that you're interested in. If you just click on the information in the button right there that you can see on the screen, it'll give you everything you need to know about the product. And then you could add it to your cart and then just come right back. I think I get made really small, but I'm still talking, so you'll still hear me. And then you can come back and pick up where we are. So now that stop bead, let's see. That for me is my accent. It's that purple again. So it ties in together the purple that we used here around the bezel. And now the purple is my stop bead for my little 3mm. And you can use a bigger bead here. You could use the 11. I like the 15 one. It's just a teeny tiny little pop of color. And two, it doesn't take away from what I love about this 3mm bead. And the marrying of these two, you could, in fact, let me show you. You can use round beads. So like here I used round pearls. You can use round beads, but I really loved the low profile of these rondelles where they're circular, but they're flat on top. And I love Czech beads, and I think the Czech beads go together well with the Czech buttons. To me, they are some of my most favorite beads. I know we've had a lot of Czech beads that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, especially with all of those special blends, the designer blends that everybody's talking about. Oh, how I digress and I get into exciting other products. Sorry. Don't mean to confuse. Do I wax the thread? I do not wax the thread. I can't remember the last time I waxed thread. And I think part of the benefit of 1G has made it so I'm liberated. I don't wax my thread. Typically, what I remember from when I used to wax my thread, it just helps the fibers stay together so it doesn't fray as much when I'm working. It helps when things are knotting or not knotting. But then there's that other, oh my gosh, it was, cause I have boxes of it. The other product that you would use to wax your thread, but it wasn't wax. It was actually like a repelling, and that helped with knots. I don't have that. I don't have any of those issues with 1G, and I'm not saying that it's magic, but I like 1G, and it has eliminated, yes, 15. The 15 is the stop bead. 1G for me has eliminated the need to wax. I don't even know where my wax is. I've got beeswax somewhere around here. Let's see. Yeah, the 15 to me is the stop bead. And then you could do as many as these as you want. And a lot of this becomes design oriented. And you could do an entire row of these around the I think the the strand of Czech beads would probably go around. I've done a few samples, so you would probably go around and then still have enough to do half or a little bit more on a third button. So even though they're tiny, they do go far. If just one little strand goes pretty far. And then you can do as many of these as you like. I can show you where I'm going next. I chose to do just like not even a half circle. It's a little less than a half circle. And then I did this bead on the other half. And I will show you that. It's very similar to what we did before with the back stitch, but you might be able to actually see it a little better because I used 8s. So I will come up right here next to that little Czech bead. So my needle and thread are up at the top. I will pick up 2. And another thing that's important that I often forget, oh, I dropped them off, that I often forget to highlight because to me it's second nature, but how you hold everything really does make a difference. So I hold my thread with my thumb quite often. If you're noticing, my thumb is really helping hold the main working thread, not just to keep it out of the way, but really to give me the tension that I need and help me keep it from getting out here, or it just gives me that control. I like to be in charge of my thread, and that's another thing. I don't wax my thread, but I'm in charge of my thread, so there's very few times where it gets away from me. And I feel when I didn't have better thread control is when I really had so much trouble with knots, and it took the fun out of beading. So I had to find a way to make it so I could enjoy my beading, and knots were the thing I had to conquer, and taking charge of my thread was what was really going to make a difference for me. So how I do it doesn't mean that's how it's comfortable for you, but it is an important thing to concentrate on. All right, so then I just came back up through the beadwork right behind where I started, behind that first bead, and I'm going to go back through and lock them in place. So this is again the back stitch. We've not done anything really different. We've done a back stitch, a stop stitch, and peyote. And the colors, I think, are what make this interesting, and the beadwork, keeping it simple, allows you to just be very creative without having to be too complicated that it challenges you, especially for anybody who is only beading. Like, say you get an hour a night to bead and it's 9 o'clock and you're tired, you've worked all day, the kids have driven you crazy, they're finally asleep, and you have an hour. Who wants to fight with their beadwork? Not me. So I say, make it easy, do something that's enjoyable, but I don't know, keep it as simple as possible so that you actually enjoy the time you have for yourself. Because we don't get a lot of time, most of us. I know, I raised my boys, and night times to me were precious. Once you've spent the amazing part of the day with them that you get after school, and you get all the homework done, or you get all the sports things done, and you come home and you're finally able to just relax, you want to do something that actually is relaxing and not making you so frustrated that by the time you go to bed, you're worn out and you're like, wait, what happened to my day? How did this go sideways? Oh my goodness. Okay. So sorry, I go off on a tangent. I don't mean to, but I would like to encourage people, to just enjoy what they're doing and remember why they're doing it, and try to find ways to still be able to enjoy it even when we're limited in the time that we have to do the things we love doing. Okay, so I have moved fast forwarded, and I will show you, this is the next step. So you can see we did the back stitch with those beautiful beads. They're like a yellow lined lime something. They're in the list. I love them. And then we've got our Czech beads here with the stop beads, that little pop of purple that complements the center. Really super simple. The focus is still on that button. It's still a beautiful, beautiful center. Do you have to go around the beads? So and hello from Rochester, hello. I don't go through all of the beads the whole time. So as I make progress, I'll bring this back. As I make progress, like I'll put on 2 more beads. The next time I just go back 1, and then I go through the 2 new beads and the 1 previous. And then at some point, once I feel this is secured a little bit more, I'll add 3 beads, and I just go back and go through 4 beads. So I am in essence likely going through every bead at least twice, but you don't have to go through the whole row every time, which I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that isn't clear. All right, so this is the part where the back is important, because from here I'm going to be done with the design. Let me stop myself, because from here what you could do is add another button, add a second button, and make this a cuff, you know, like make it big enough so that you have a cuff, or make it so that you have the most amazing pendant. Add a second button and do another design that complements this design. Add a second of the same button. Keep going with your beadwork. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and part of the size of your foundation, if you start with a larger piece, gives you room to do whatever you want. And remember I said you can color on it? You could also use a pen and sketch a design. So say you want to put another button here, and I want to do something over here. And then this becomes something that maybe isn't necessarily meant for jewelry, and you want to make this into a wall hanging. Please do not let the size of this foundation limit you. Just have fun. Have fun painting. It's a painting, it's a drawing, it's coloring, it's whatever it is that connects with your brain and what this means that we're doing. But for this purpose, what you want to do now is understand what's next. And what next is cutting away the foundation we do not need. And this is why the stitching on the back is so important. Because what I want to do is get as close to the beads as possible. Like this actually might be a problem, because I was a little bit outside the lines here. That's probably going to be an issue for me, and I'll be very sad that I wasn't paying closer attention. But what we're going to do is trim away the foundation so that I have just the front as close to the beadwork as possible. And again, this is why we want good scissors. But what you don't want to do is cut your thread. Thank you. Thank you for filling her in. Oh, Kim, here, let me show you. Oh, it's glued down. I'm sorry. Yes. But Kim, if you watch the replay, this will be in the replay down below under Missed It. You can watch this again. And that's another thing to keep in mind. If you place an order today and your products come in and you want to work alongside me, watch the replay. I'll be here. I'm here for you. All right. And so I'm just going to cut in. I'll rough cut. I'm going to save this thread since it's long enough. I'm going to do my best to not cut my thread, that's my working thread. And cut around. Ooh, got really close there. I may regret that. I wasn't paying attention. And you could save this. It's pretty durable. You can save it, throw it in a box and save it. And then you'll want to cut as close as you can to these stitches. And if your thread runs out, just make a few knots, pass it under some of these stitches and just knot here and start a new thread. This is not as challenging to start a new thread as it is when you're in the middle of a woven peyote cuff and you're like halfway through and now your thread has to start and end. Or if you're knitting and all of a sudden you have to start a new skein of yarn, like it's not as awful. I promise you, it's not as awful. But I do have enough yarn. I do have enough thread left over. I do want to try to save it. So I'm going to try to keep tucking it away. And cut away. and get as close to that edge as you can. Once you get to that point, what you'll do is make up a new batch of glue and apply it into the center. And you again do not want to go quite to the edge. You want to, like, I like to have the glue protect my threads a little bit, but you don't want to make it so that the glue is so close to the edge your needle has to pass through it in the next step. So try to keep it somewhat close, but really focus on the center. So you're going to go back in, make some more glue, apply it to the back, and then this is something new we haven't talked about. You want to put on a backing, and this is ultra suede. Ultra suede is a fabric, but you can use suede, you can use leather, but this ultra suede is just a beautiful weight. It feels so nice against your skin, and it comes in a lot of really fun colors. And even though it's on the back, you may not see it. It is nice to have that extra design. And I don't know about you, but I know, like, next week when I'm in Tucson, if somebody looks at a piece of jewelry I'm wearing, they'll look at the front and they immediately turn it over. So it is nice when the back of your jewelry is finished just as nicely as the front. So you will have the glue here and you will just put it on top of a piece of backing. And this, this is again where you're going to be like, oh, I want to color it. Go ahead. You can color it. You can color it even after you finish weaving it. Like there's no end date on when you can actually go in and color it. You just need a different tip on your marker or something that helps you get into the sides. Okay, so now we'll switch over to this. Here we are, the finished piece. Everything's been trimmed. I don't know where that came from. And my backing is glued on. And now we just trim the backing. Trim the backing away. And again, I want to try to trim it close to the edge, kind of mirror the shape that you already have of your foundation. If you kept that thread, keep it out of the way. Again, it's not the end of the world if you accidentally cut it away, but since I have it and we're almost done today, I really want to try to protect it. I'm going to trim that away. Okay. And this, when you put your backing on, if you can cut it closer to the size of what you need, you have much less waste. So that you don't have to worry about trying to salvage it for something else. All right, now we're in the home stretch. I already have my needle on. And again, you can use whatever you like. This is a little bit of an accent going on here. You can use the 11s, you can use the 15s, you can use a combination. And maybe this is where you bring that pink back so you can actually see it. So if you saved your thread, it's already out between the foundation, the beading foundation, and your ultra suede. It's already coming out of the middle. But say you need to start a new thread. You finished, you need to start a new thread. Start a new thread and just get it inside the foundation between the two and put a little knot on the end of it and just get it in there. All right. And now actually by doing that, I'm coming out of the foundation a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is just a little picot edge. And I always get this wrong when I'm trying to teach it, so hopefully I'll get it right. And I'm going to, from the front, go through the back. And this may be, I wish I had a thimble time. So I will carefully use the table to help me get through both pieces. I may or may not caught both, but you want to go through both the back and the front. And you're kind of bridging and creating a nice little fun edge. You can do a singular stitch here too. Like if you want to keep it simple and you don't want to have it be decorative, you can do a single bead here. And it's similar to the back stitch where you just kind of stitch it on, go back through it, stitch it on, go back through it. So now I've got my 3 beads, and my 15 is the one that's going to stick up. That'll be my little picot. And because I now have 3, I just need to pick up 2. So like the 3rd bead that I went through here becomes the 1st bead of the next picot. So that's 1. I'll pick up the center bead, which is the 15, then the 11, go back through both the foundation or the ultra suede and the foundation. Try to come up near the edge, but also so that you're over, maybe over just a little bit more. And also what you want to do is you don't want to come down so far on the back as your stitches will show. So it's a juggling act. You know, it's definitely something that may be a little bit tedious and you want to take your time with, but you also want it to work. So, and this is one of those times where I am, sorry about that. I do try to be thoughtful in keeping my spacing similar, because it will show, unless you're getting into a piece similar to this where the edging, you know, here I feel the edging is important. It's very much a part of the design, but over here it gets a little more funky and then you don't care as much. So depending on how you're finishing your piece, you may really want this to be more exacting than what you had been doing before. So again, I'm just going to stitch through both the back and the front, go back up through that last bead strung, and then pick up 2 beads. And then you'll go all the way around until it looks like this. And see, you can see a little bit of the stitching. You can see where I had to go down a little bit more on the back, but it's not offensive, at least not to me. And if you wanted to, you could put a finding underneath here and like cut a slit so that the finding comes through, and then you can, you know, bead around the opening that you may have cut for the finding. There's lots of options. What I believe I will do is either I will add a loop of beads at the top and put a piece of chain and make this into an earring. It's almost too big for me to wear as an earring, but maybe not. I'm going to Tucson next week and I might get away with it. Or it may just become a sweet little pendant, or it could be part of a bracelet. You can add some loops on the side and add some leather. You can add this to a larger piece of foundation. I mean, it becomes whatever you want, really. You can do so many things with just this little guy. And I will say, if you were to make one all the way through, I think I could get through one in about an hour if I'm really focused. Also glue a pin on the back. Yep, you can glue a pin on the back. And then, let's see, this is another one with a pin on the back. And then this guy, if you can find the bail converters, then you can make it into a pendant. So, I mean, geez, I hope this was a great use of the check buttons. I know, Kim, it may have even been you who asked about using check buttons in a design. I hope this was inspiring. I hope this was something that you find is, you know, something that you might be interested in, and that you found the information helpful. If it was, I went through too fast and this was not thorough enough, let me know, but just go back and watch it again. I'm sure in what I covered is there if you just watch it again. And I just had a wonderful time. I loved preparing this. I appreciated that you let me know what it is you want to learn. So if there's anything that you would like to know us and want us to cover, please let us know. Put it in the comments. Don't forget to close out your shopping cart and get those products on their way to you so you too can make something like this. I love that sweet bird. It is certainly harbinger to me sounds like a negative word, but spring is coming. I know it is. I believe it in my heart. It's going to be here very soon. And birds to me are just such a wonderful part of spring. I love hearing them out in the yard. So, oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you from Rochester. Thank you. Thank you, Estelle. Oh, wonderful, Lisa. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm sorry I'm so close to the screen. That's kind of scary. But that's just the way it works at this part of my time, just based on the setup. So thank you. Thank you so much. Again, catch the lives. Go to artbeads.com/live. find everything everybody's got coming up. I will be live from Tucson next week. I'm going to be doing some right angle weave so it'll be for me, I'm on Mountain Time when I'm in Tucson this time of year. So that'll be 11 Mountain, still 1 o'clock Eastern. We're going to do some right angle weave with some Czech pearls. And then I come back on the 5th and we are doing tubular peyote and some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful porcelain beads. So be sure to stay tuned, save those dates. Check out what Becky, Julie, and Sarah are also doing. We're having a ball. We're having a ball. We're so enjoying being with all of you. We can't thank you enough for being a part of this community. Please bring your friends. We would love for more people to join us and have fun with us. And please share. Let us know what it is we can be offering to you so that it helps give us an idea of what we want to cover and what you want to know. I'm sure some of us can do it. To cut a slit in the foundation for the back. Oh, yep, sure, you can do that too. Well, good. I hope I've empowered you to cut it off. Yes, don't make it any harder for you than it needs to be. But leaving an opening for the back for the shank is also an option, certainly. All right, Lisa, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Oh, love Tucson. I cannot wait. And not just because it's warmer there, although it is going to be amazing. 73 when I land. I'm so excited. I am a summer girl, and so I'm ready to get rid of some of this snow and shake off some of this cold. Maybe I'll still bring my because it's the desert, so you still need some knitted warm stuff. But it's going to be a great week. Looking forward to it. Oh, goodness. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful to be here with you today. It was wonderful preparing for this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And working with these products to me is always such a joy. The colors, the craftsmanship, the beauty of the elements and all the different parts and pieces we put together. Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a great week. And we'll catch you around here next week. Same time. Take care.